So for people that weren't there in that cycle compared to the last one, essentially, if we see a similar cycle, then we'll probably see it go into November,
Yeah, or maybe, as I said, it could even push into, that
early.
cycle. Alts peaked in Jan or Feb, right?
They did, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they did. And he's like, I think it was Jan. I don't remember the
yeah.
cycles much anymore. But then back then we didn't have the 4 year cycle thesis wasn't as powerful as it is now. So the one thing I'm wondering, and me and Scott talk about this a lot, is whether just people expecting that 4 year cycle, they're expecting it to end like everyone knows it's going to end later this year, early next year, and they preempt it by starting to liquidate their positions early on, and that might make it end early. So like the
Yeah.
the
So
the more
I got,
prevalent the theory is, the more it becomes self-fulfilling.
yeah, but liquidity is the big daddy here. I got caught out by this in 2017. By about April or May, I sold out of my Bitcoin. I was up 10x because I bought it at 200. It was trading at 2000. I'm like, it's a pretty good trade. I took the money off the table. It consolidated for a little bit. Then it went up another 10x into the end of the year. People can't understand this. It's like, if Bitcoin went up 10x from here, I mean, we're $1 million. Now, I'm not expecting a 10x, but what I'm saying is people did the same thing then. And what happens is you sell out positions, the market corrects, and because liquidity is still the driver, everybody gets forced back into their positions, and that creates this violent end of year move. That's possible. I'm not saying it's definite, but I think of improbabilities, and that's where my head's at.
We talked, and you talked about it a lot in the last cycle, the possibility of a super cycle. Now, when you question history, any trader will tell you, like, history tends to rhyme. Um, and when you start thinking like things will be different, it probably isn't. But I just think that's an oversimplification because there is just so many factors right now that are bullish towards crypto, especially when it comes from a regulatory perspective. And we were talking earlier, the president launched his damn meme coin, so did his wife, and arguably his son did as well. Some people say Barron launched a meme coin. I'm not sure if it's true. Um, and then his other sons have backed different coins as well. So when you put all these factors together, what's happening in the SEC and how bullish the current administration is towards crypto, and when you look at the macro factors as well, could we see a super cycle? Is it a sin if we discuss it this time
So
around?
I'm going to flip it a different way of looking at it. Has Amazon been in a super cycle? Yeah. Has Microsoft? Yeah. Has Google? Yeah. Have they all had massive correction periods during the downside of the 4 year cycle? Yes, every single time. So what you don't do is you don't get rid of the cyclicality. It's the compounding of returns over time. Now, the only change that I could say is possible, and I think is likely, is that the downside in Bitcoin is not as big as people expect. Right? The free money trade is you try and sell out somewhere near the top, or even if you don't sell out, you're waiting for the dip to buy more. The answer is usually wait till it's down 70%, 75%, start buying, and you make a 20, 30x on that trade every time. My guess is it probably ends up down 40 and not down 75. And that will create a lot of complications for people who are waiting for the big leg lower. And people are going to get caught out, I think, in this cycle. Now, that doesn't mean all of the long tail stuff doesn't go down 90%. Of course it will. But I'm thinking about Bitcoin itself as the anchor price to this whole thing. I kind of am the impression of what changes is the downside is reduced in Bitcoin.
And then when you start going down the ladder and you go into the VC backed projects, yeah, you can look at the riskier assets. And what we see in every cycle is when we start going through the bear market, 99 point whatever percent of them go to zero. We're seeing a lot more mature projects launched this time around, and we're not seeing the same hype. And I'm not talking about meme coins or fair launches and AI. We'll get to that afterwards. But with VC-backed projects, which we're still extremely aggressive there, despite the returns not being 10x every project. Do you expect to see the same thing repeat itself in those projects that again go through a 99 point whatever percent correction where everything gets wiped out?
Yeah, and I think it's a very important function of what crypto does, right? Crypto is this incredible, fast, super high velocity, creative destruction cycle. you don't know what's going to be really valuable until the bottom of the cycle. The things that survive become the best trades. Solana, Ethereum. So Ethereum in 2019, absolute killer trade. 2018, Solana in 2022, absolute killer. So what you need to see is when those things go down 95%, everything goes down 95%. So now you've got all of these things at a discount. Your job is to find out what really has network effects, what is really powering an ecosystem. And what you'll find is a bunch of these are kind of dead chains because they were just using money from the foundation to pay for economic activity. But then you looked at Solana and there was a ton of developers building. The community was like focused. Tolly was a good leader. You're like, okay, there's signal here. So I like the cyclicality where you wash out all the bad ideas. People are testing innovation. And that's good, right? A lot of innovation. You do VC, tons of VC things go to zero. But if you get the right ones, they don't. You can make a lot of money out of them. So that, I think, is the power law.
The failure rate in crypto is just so much higher than traditional VC. And I'm
Well, because
just hoping
there's more crypto projects.
just the amount of
And
volume. Yeah.
also, don't forget, unlike VC, these are coming to market instantly. So if you were to look at really early stage seed investments, and if you were to have a real-time mark-to-market on those, they'd be horrific. Are we going to die today? Are we going to survive tomorrow? Are we going to die today? I mean, that's all it is. They're the same. It's the same thing. It just happens to be the earlier stage bit that's hidden because in VC, there's no mark-to-market really until a token launches or equity becomes tradable, i.e. different people want to pay for the equity.
Before we go into AI, which again is probably what I'm most excited about, do you want to talk about Solana versus ETH? That's gotten a lot of traction after Trump coins is launched. What's your stance on both chains? What's your stance on Solana, especially considering what happened to it when Melania Trump's coin launched?
It was my main bet from 2022 onwards.
I remember.
I'm immensely bullish on Solana. I think they have the right activity, the right pace of innovation. They're do good stuff. There is, so much activity on chain because of meme coins, but there's also stable coins and DeFi and all of the things that are required to build a great a blockchain ecosystem. So I think Solana outperforms Bitcoin. Outperforms
ETH.
Bitcoin and
Bitcoin and
outperforms ETH as well. ETH is struggling. And ETH is struggling not because ETH is bad. Yes, it's lost a bit of direction, but the reality is they overbuilt capacity by all of the layer twos. Right? Anybody can spin up a layer two, so you're building endless capacity, and it only uses a small amount on the actual Ethereum mainnet. So what they've built is this gigantic architecture that's suitable for the entire finance system at scale, but we don't have that use case. So what you're seeing is it's just not generating enough activity on the base chain, and that's why it's dragging. My guess is if you are Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or whoever, and you want to tokenize assets, tokenize equity markets, tokenize all of the finance stuff, lending markets, you're going to do it on ETH. ETH is like the Microsoft of blockchains. It's the one you won't get fired for. It's the one that has the highest level of security, the deepest developer ecosystem, the largest amount of interoperability, the largest amount of applications. There's no reason the finance system will build at scale on any other chain yet.
And the last thing I want to ask you about is something you've been pretty vocal. I was talking to one of my team members yesterday. Actually, you might know him. He's been on our show, on our space, Lawyered. He's a regular on the space. He's been on stage with you
Right.
a few months ago. And we're talking about NFTs, whether the whole concept of PFPs is dead. He's a big supporter of NFT art. No one talks about it. It's no longer the sexy thing. Do you think liquidity could ever flow back into PFPs like it did before?
So this is exactly the trade, and I've been doing it, the Solana or the ETH trade, right? You wait for the washout, everything goes to zero, and you look what has value. What has value? CryptoPunks. They were a fucking gift at about 20 ETH. You've got probably Bored Apes, bit riskier, but probably going to survive and do well. You've got stuff like meme community PFPs like Crypto Dick Butts, Rec Guy. These things, yeah, Crypto Dick Butts. It makes you smile,
They're
right?
doing. Are they still there?
Yes. And they're going up in value. Why? Because all the OGs, people like myself, have been buying them because they're so OG, right? You kind of know somebody's into crypto if they own a Crypto Dick Butt. It's like a cheap version of a punk. And they're just amazing. And there's some group who's got the Crypto Dick Butt heist going on. It's a Twitter handle, and they seem to be kidnapping dick butts, which is genius.
Yeah, the price really picked up recently.
Yeah.
I've been paying attention.
So PFPs aren't dead. We're going through the Lindy effect and seeing which ones are going to last. And the ones that last are going to become very valuable. So that's the same trade that we got before. It's the same with the art market. We're being given, because these lag in terms of time, the rest of the crypto market, but wealth gets recycled into art NFTs, let's say Xcopy, Beeple, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing capital flowing as people are funneling profits into high status art.